Hello and welcome to the Bear Pit Pod. We are back once again. We always make a note usually if we're on beer or not, but we're not. No beers this week. A sobering episode.
Yeah, just a bit of water for me.
Same.
And orange and peach water for you.
Fancy.
Bit of flavour for you.
Fancy.
It's pushing the boat out, that, yeah.
Let's get straight into it today because it's quite a serious one, I feel. But obviously the result at the weekend was a nightmare. An absolute nightmare.
Worst case scenario, wasn't it?
You give me the sort of general, because I wasn't at the game and managed to watch it via the internet.
Powers of the internet.
But what was the general atmosphere around the ground, sort of ahead of the game?
It was. I mean, I obviously didn't speak to everyone in the ground, but
no one had expected you, Craig.
No,
you have to go and survey everyone's opinion.
From my own gut feelings and perspective, and speaking to family and friends, it was just nervous, like a nervous anticipation that we're gonna. We've seen it loads of times under Hughes. You know, when we go into these sort of games where we need to win this one because the pressure's mounting. I knew that would happen. Just felt it. The whole ground just felt edgy. And I knew they'd score. At some point. I didn't know whether it would be to take the lead, to pull one back. But it just felt so inevitable when it did happen.
And it did happen.
And the only shot was the quick succession of the second one.
And it did happen quite early on. Sermon with the strike. It was a good strike into the bottom corner.
It was a good finish. Joe Allen take note. He missed a very similar chance in the second half. But
and then next up was pretty soon after that was a short cross tackle. I think it was a bad challenge.
Really
himself.
Clumsy. I mean, I've not looked at any highlights because I can't face them. But from where I was sat in the Sentinel, is it the Sentinel cell? I don't know. It looked stone wall for me. Short cross, just blind challenge.
I've watched it back a couple of times and he scissored him, you know, where you dive in with both legs.
That's what I assumed from where I sat.
It's just asking for trouble.
I just want penalty.
And then the penalty was slotted away by, was it Wilson or King? One of the two. I'm not too sure.
Knows. I was just crying at that time. I don't know.
So yeah, going to the break 2-0 down, and if the atmosphere was bad before the game, I guess it was even worse.
Like a chorus of boos that rang out throughout the thing. The weather was miserable. It was just horrible.
It's not a great day.
It was just horrible. It's just, I feel so flat now. I was so hyped after the Arsenal and Man United games, wasn't I? Where I did it on the podcast, and embarrassed to, in hindsight, look back at how hyped, excited I was. Cause I thought we turned a corner. I saw something different. I saw some fight, but the same old problems continue to persist. A nervous energy, players that can't play in this formation. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it in more detail, but it's just the first half was horrendous. Awful. One of the worst 45 minutes I've seen under Hughes. Not just the performance, but the atmosphere,
the attitude,
the vibe, the attitude. It was all just so flat, and like I said already, the worrying thing was it just felt inevitable. It just felt, this was always going to happen. It just felt like absolutely inevitable.
It did get a little better in the second half, when they did come out. Obviously, Jufi got the goal. I said on Twitter, it looks like he doesn't try score it.
It's true.
It's like he's not trying to score it. But he did. It went in off his knee or thigh.
I've not even looked at that back because I just couldn't face it. But from my vague recollection of the goal, it just seems to bounce around and just hit Juve. Is that right? Is that fair?
He did direct it in, to give him the credit, but it came off like his knee or thigh. He's just such an unorthodox striker.
Are we going to get into Juve now, or are we going to come back to that?
Go on.
I don't want to disturb your agenda. You've taken time to prepare, but I love Juve. He's a bit of a cult player. I think players and fans appreciate him, the effort he puts in. He's scoring, I can't argue with that.
And the thing I noticed as well from your match day is he's lying down absolutely, giving
he's
his
flat
all, out on the pitch. No one else is doing that.
I agree.
He'd put everything into that game. And I also want to say, because I did make that comment on Twitter, I did say, every goal he scores, he looks like he's hardest not to score, which is just an observation on his mannerisms. I fucking love Juve. Someone went back and said I've got an agenda against him, but I love Juve.
I do. I don't think there's a Stoke fan out there that doesn't like Juve to some degree. However, here comes the but.
Right.
I do love Juve. Put that caveat in there that I'm not slagging Juve off just for the sake of it. I think he's a good player. He offers a lot to the club. But I've been trying to figure Juve out as a striker for ages. Since we've got him, can he do it and all this sort of stuff? My official bottom line conclusion of Juve is he cannot play as the sole striker with his back to goal.
Oh no.
Juve with his back to goal, he's not a hold-up player. I reckon hold-up for Juve is the worst part of his game. And when you're played in this front three, it is Juve at his worst. I know he scored, but he just looked a little bit lost in that formation. It does not work. He has to
play. He'd be much better than a two.
He has to play off somebody facing the goal. Juve's back to goal equals poor hold-up, inability to bring players in, around him and stuff. It just does not work at all. And it doesn't seem to work for any player in this formation. We can't get a player that the ball can stick with. We need that. Ironically, I thought Bonnie did it all right in spells, but we need that strong physical player that can play constructively with his back to goal. We haven't got one of them in a squad. Maybe Crouch, but I don't think Crouch is quick enough to play up front on his own. And Juve certainly isn't the answer. Despite the fact he scored, he cannot play up front on his own. It doesn't work at all.
I don't think it works either.
No.
Another big talking point around the game, and I've gone onto the oatcake once, and I don't do this often, but I went onto the oatcake, and one of the talking points has since been, the Glenn Johnson sub.
Yeah,
you were there. Explain what happened for us.
So he come on. We think it was for, I can't recall. We think it was for Berahino. Correct. I'm sure you will, but correct us if we're wrong. But I think it was for Berahino. But that's not the point. And he was. No, sorry, it wasn't. It was definitely for Crouch. Okay. It was for Crouch. Sorry, it was. So Johnson gets subbed off, and there was certainly audible booing that you could hear. Not every man and his dog booing, but there was certainly something you could hear. And I don't care how bad Johnson or any Stoke player plays, it makes me cringe when at home you're booing someone going off. I felt embarrassed for Johnson. I felt bad for the team, the squad. I just don't like that at all. Now, I'm not saying Johnson's performing well. He's not. He's performing awfully, very poorly, to put it mildly. And I'm sure he'll survive on his 50k a week. I get that and all this sort of stuff. And he's got thick skin. He probably won't bother. But I think there's a wider point than that. I just think the knock-on effects of team morale when you're booing a player who gets subbed, it's just the wider picture. I don't like it. Just to play devil's advocate, fans pay the money, go to the game, have every right to express their opinion. I agree with that. I just think the squad's confidence is shot to pieces at the moment. You can see they're so nervous.
Oh yeah, it looks like that.
And picking out players individually to boo when they're subbed just doesn't do anything. Full-time whistle, half-time whistle, fill your boots. But to pick somebody out solely in the middle of the game, I don't see what benefit that brings. I appreciate that. I understand the reasons people booed, but I don't agree with people booing, if that makes sense. Yeah, he's poor, I get that. I'm sure he knows that as much as the next person.
But yeah, personally,
what do you think?
I was just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
that's something I'd never do myself.
Like
I'd probably turn to the person next to me and go, he was fucking shit, wasn't he? And that's probably as far as it'd go for me. But
yeah,
fans do pay the money. They probably have the right to express how they feel, rightly or wrongly. That is.
I agree with that, but my philosophy is at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But obviously they wanted to get a Johnson directly. I don't know. I just don't like it. Maybe I'll get shot down for that, probably. But
so, who were your best performers from the game?
So yeah, you know what? I was going to create another little positive section in the podcast because there wasn't many.
Because we need some.
But something that was glaringly positive for me somehow in this fucking field of shit that was Saturday. Something that was definitely positive. I thought it was Hesse's best performance.
Hesse played well.
He looked a class above, and I thought he's gone very, very quiet since that Arsenal goal. And I was a bit worried, really.
This was his best game since.
Yeah, I'm sure we're paying a lot of money in this loan fee, and I was starting to think, Jesus, where's this money going? But he was brilliant on Saturday. I say brilliant. We lost to Bournemouth at home 2-1, but he was as brilliant as you can be in that performance. He looked really classy.
He had some great spells.
Oh yeah, his first touch, his kind of close control was phenomenal, and I just think link him in with Shaq and a decent striker centre forward, we've got something there. That's a positive.
Well, let's hope Shaq's back soon.
Apparently will be. I think he was training on Friday for Bournemouth.
Yeah, he did.
Just fell a little bit short. That's a positive. Do you want more positives?
I want more people who played well, if you can think of more.
I thought Jeff Cameron played all right.
Yep.
I think Jeff Cameron's all right. I still struggle to think where his best position is, but I do think he's defensive midfielder. Joe Allen had one of his better games, and I've been a tad critical
criticism of Joe.
Joe Allen recently, but I thought he was quite industrious and he worked really hard and he got about them. After that, I'm struggling.
Yeah, struggling after that.
I don't know.
But definitely Jesse was the Hesse.
Yeah, he was the best one. I thought Jeff was okay. Joe Allen was all right. That's your lot. Zuma was solid enough, I suppose, but
and then worst. So obviously Johnson had a stinker.
Peters was poor. I don't know if we want to get onto a Peters section or come to that in a minute or do it now.
Do it now. Peters, we've been banging on about. I've personally been banging on about Peters for a long time, and I still didn't know how he's starting left back for our club, and I don't know how Glenn Johnson's playing right back. I don't know how this is our best idea of wing backs to play in that formation. And you came out on the matchday experience, walking out of the ground, you said, I don't know how he can play these players in wing back positions for this formation.
I mean, playing as a wing back is arguably the most demanding position on the pitch
Up and down,
ever, because you've got to be a decent winger, a decent defender, and bags of energy. Peters at best is an alright defender. He's definitely not a winger.
He's a full back.
Yeah, 100%. He's a left back or centre back at most. And what's so frustrating, when you look at I'd love to see Stoke players' time on the ball for their stats for Bournemouth, and generally when he plays wing back, but he seems to be on the ball all the time. I don't know whether the opposition think, give it Peters, it's fine. He's always got the ball in attacking third position, and as we know, his crossing is shocking.
Yeah.
How we can play a wing back formation with no recognisable wing backs in the squad is mind blowing. Peters is never a wing back. He can't cross. He's the worst crosser of the ball I've seen in a long time. His crossing is awful.
It's absolutely terrible. It's the worst part of his game.
I remember he scored for Stoke a few years back against Newcastle. It was a cross. That says it all. And I'm always conscious that I don't want to be too critical because it's my team. It's the players I want to back and all the rest of it. He's a decent defender. I actually think he's a decent defender.
He's an okay fullback.
Yeah, he is. He's absolutely fine. But he's not a winger, certainly, and he's certainly not a wing back. He can't cross the ball. But we play a formation which relies so heavily on wing backs being able to get forward and cross. He can't do it.
Can't do it.
Glenn Johnson, likewise, back in the day, I think his best position was wing back, but them days have definitely been
They're long gone. Long gone.
How is Hughes persisting with this formation when we've got no wing backs? We've not even got shit wing backs. We just haven't got wing backs. It's just bonkers.
It's just bonkers. It's a strange one.
Ironically, I think Juve he's got traits to suggest he could be a decent wing back, but he's not one.
You think after the transfer window finished, you think, right, we haven't got the quality to play this formation.
We can't do it. Let's not do it.
Let's not
persist with it.
But we've carried it on.
The gaps we're finding ourselves in our defensive fullback position every single week. There is absolute acres. You look at half the Man City goals from the other week. Get in behind the fullbacks because they're half at the pitch, not putting decent crosses in. It's just glaring to me. I'm not a manager, but it's definitely not. So obvious. It's frustrating. Whose fault is that?
Well, not last week. Great segue there, Craig, because this is what we come on to now. The manager, and he's come under probably the most stick I've seen in his reign.
This is the peak of the Hughes out-isms.
This is definitely the peak. Now I want to read to you what he said after the game at the weekend.
Casually said, I imagine.
So these are the quotes, which were, I think, from the Telegraph. So he said, "We're in a situation in terms of league position, but we do have good games coming up. We'll be fine. We are very rarely in the bottom three when the season finishes, and we always judge our season."
Did he literally say that?
Yeah,
we never have been, because we would never get
never been. But we're very rarely in the bottom three when the season finishes, and we always judge our season on what happens at the end of the 38 games rather than 8 or 9 games. The fans have a management team, and the fans have a management team. I'm not sure what this means. The fans have a management team that has been in these situations before. Right, okay, now, and been successful. So I don't think they need to worry. It's about letting good. This is the bit that's irked a lot of people. It's a bit patronising. It's about letting good people get on with their jobs and coming through these periods. Basically saying to the fans, just leave us alone. And then that's it. That is it.
I mean, I've not read that specific quote at all. I did hear his bits of his post-match interview.
Where at one point, I think he said that the weather didn't help.
That's like a bollocks.
It plays for both.
Don't be so naive as to put that in. It's so naive and laughable. Fans aren't going to buy that. He's very casual, wasn't he? For what I deemed as an awful, terrible result and performance, he was so casual with his post-match interview on Radio Stoke. It was just like we were sitting mid-table and it's just one of them days. But it's not one of them days. It's been one of them 18 months.
Really, since the Liverpool Capital One Cup semi-final.
Yeah, more or less. That was January, Feb time, wasn't it? 2016. I don't know. But the stats, I'm going to wheel off some stats. I'm sure we've heard them all. But we've only won 8 of our last 34 Premier League games.
Which is relegation form.
100%. Conceding 57. I don't know if I can face another one of these inevitable batterings.
We've conceded the most in the league so far, 20 goals. Only Crystal Palace with 19 behind us.
I know, and they've only scored 2 goals themselves. I
think I favourited a few tweets as well. Just
I mean,
had points. I'll see if I can find them, but it's not making great reading.
It's not. He's very casual. I said to my dad, I know it seems very petty this, and if things are going well, who cares? But I do struggle with his kind of lax body language on the touchline. Mm-hmm. You get one game a week, roughly. Just stand up and show a bit of enthusiasm. Now, I'm not naive enough to think standing up will win you a game, but his whole demeanour, his interviews, his body language, it's just very casual, and you see that reflected on the pitch. The whole pitch is casual.
And I also want to... This was a tweet I favorited because I think it shows some of the expectations and how we've changed as a club since that bright spell back in that date that we said, January or Feb 2016. Yeah. So Peter Coates says this is the best Stoke squad ever, but club will be active in January with a striker and a central defender on the list. Mm-hmm. Stoke chairman Peter Coates says the squad Mark Hughes has assembled is the best the club has ever had. Mm-hmm. And then it said about we are now aiming for Europe.
What, this season?
No, this was
sorry, got you. Sorry, yeah, sorry.
And then quotes, nowadays, Stoke chairman Peter Coates is urging supporters to have a sense of perspective in the wake of club's hugely disheartening defeat at Man City, and Stoke's board are refusing to panic despite sitting above the relegation zone, while Mark Hughes insists the club is not in a crisis. That's expectations lowered.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
I think Coates realises that to make them European spots, you've got to splash a lot more money, and maybe he didn't anticipate or acknowledge that at the time, and thought we can just do this under Hughes.
We have spent money. Let's not.
Yeah.
We have spent money. We've spent 50 million combined on Wimmer, Berahino and Mbula. Mm-hmm. All three didn't start at the weekend.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sense of money has been spent. We can't deny that, and I don't think it's been spent well. I still struggle with the Berahino signing, especially as he's not even getting game time.
I don't struggle with it because I think it was a good signing, but I'm boring myself saying this, but I don't understand why he's not been given a consistent run in the squad. I've said it a million times. Start of the season, I'd have gone up to Berahino if I was you and said, right, you weren't fit last season. I'm going to literally start you for the next 8 games.
Just give him a run.
And he just dropped him. What's the point in that? What was the point in getting him fit? What was the point in buying him? I've done it before. It doesn't matter. But
big talking point here. I will go and look at what was on the Bear Pit Twitter.
I was doing my best to suppress all this annoyance by just ignoring all talk of Stoke.
Now it's come out.
Yeah.
Another point as well, which was quite interesting on the Monday night BBC 5 live sports show. Difference in net spend between Stoke and Southampton is 94 million in our direction.
Wow.
That was a big
they've made a lot of money.
They've made a lot of money from sales. Also spent a bit, but it's a bit, for a club who we might consider in the same levels as us, that's a hell of a difference.
It's worrying.
It's a hell of a difference. So let me get the poll up, because this is definitely the big talking point: is Hughes in or out?
So did you put this out on?
So I put the poll up on Saturday after the game. It was 21% Hughes in and 79% Hughes out.
Do you think that reflects accurately the consensus of all Stoke fans?
I really do. I think
that's where
I think it might even be closer. Bigger Hughes out group.
Do you think? I reckon it might be slightly more. In fact, I reckon
from what I can gauge from the pages, from obviously monitoring the social media, etc. That's what I can sort of see. But that was obviously skewed by the fact people who aren't on social media, the older generation who might want to stick with Hughes, God knows. That's just from the Bear Pits fan base, which does obviously not represent the thoughts of every single Stoke City fan. However, me and you, people have wanted to know, and I know that people have asked on the questions when we always ask the questions.
Yeah.
Are you in? Are you out? Am I in? Am I out? And I have to say, I was turned at the weekend.
You were always out. Well, no, you were out, then jumped a little bit.
I was out in April.
Oh, hokey cokey.
Yeah, I was out in April.
Yeah.
And then when it became very clear that we weren't going to go for a Marco Silva, for someone else, and we were sticking with Hughes, the only thing I thought I could do was get behind my team, support them. Me just being Hughes out, being negative from the start of the season is helping no one. Helping absolutely no one. So I got behind the team, and I have to say that all the changes and things that I thought might have had a chance of being sorted have not been. If anything, it might be worse. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So this weekend snapped me, and I am firmly back in the Hughes out camp. You, Craig, because I texted you on Saturday night and you couldn't give me a straight answer.
Still can't now. But here we go anyway, right? So my answer's got 2 caveats in it.
Right.
If you could guarantee me Sam Allardyce now...
Oh, would you take him?
I would.
Right.
Say Hughes out. If you can't, I'm willing to give Hughes our next games. We've got Watford, Leicester, Brighton, Crystal Palace. I'm willing to give the next 4 games
to see if it can turn it
under Hughes. And regardless of who's out there after them 4 games, if the results are poor and the performances are poor, I'm Hughes out after the next 4 games. As it stands this very second, I'm bar Sam Allardyce saying yes, I want to come. I'm just in the I'm going to wait for the next 4 games camp, but in-ish. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yourself.
You want to give him 4 more games?
4 more games, just if the results and performances shine to the next 4, I'm out.
Okay. Whilst you say that, it's probably a good time to go to Peter Coates' quotes. And
somebody tweeted about this.
He might have been a little bit similar to you. So he says, "We have winnable games coming up, and we need to get back to winning. 100%. I feel we have got a good squad that should be capable of competing in this league, and nothing has changed in my view on that. I am concerned about the last 2 poor results, and we need to do better. But I did say 2 poor results. I don't think we have been poor up till then." Then he said, "If you perform poorly, you are going to get a reaction from supporters. That's normal, that's football. It was a game we felt we needed to win and should win, but came out very flat, and it was very disappointing. It did surprise me because I thought we would come out on the front foot. We were at home, and after a bad result, you expect to see a reaction, but I didn't." Reaction's a big word there because it's been used in a lot of press conferences since games. We're going to have a reaction. Let's see what our reaction is.
Casual on it.
And there's been no reaction.
Nothing at all. It was casual.
So for me... I don't think that's the dreaded vote of confidence that managers get. I don't think it's quite that, but I think Peter Coates himself is saying similar to you. Well, there's 4 games coming up.
Me and Coates are on the same wavelength.
Could even be 2 games.
I'll tell you what I think would tip it slightly earlier. If we, and I really worry this might happen, if we get a battering against Watford, or even is it Palace or Leicester?
Leicester.
If we get a battering by either of them 2 teams, that might tip it early, and I can see that happening against Watford.
Let me just tell you now, Watford have been one of the informed teams in the Premiership. Can score goals. Beat Arsenal at home last time out. Obviously, they lost to Chelsea at the weekend, but they were winning.
Good fight, yeah.
They were up. They were 2-1 up for a while. They play some great stuff. Marco Silva is a manager I'd have wanted in the summer if we got rid of Hughes. I think he's going places.
Yeah. I think if we lose by, I can see us losing above 2 goals. If we lose by 3 goals or something the weekend, I really think that might tip the boat.
I worry.
Performance is key.
I do worry. And so you're saying you reckon 4 games. I think he's got 2, if I'm being honest. I think if they're both defeats, he's gone.
True.
Yeah.
Who would you bring in?
It's a really difficult one. And there was a great quote by Martin Smith in the Sentinel today in his column.
I saw that. It was a good read, that.
It's a good read. And it is, for those of us who can't see a genuine candidate, as a potential replacement for Mark Hughes, we have to remember the fear of the unknown is not an excuse to be paralysed into crippling inactivity.
Lovely.
When something isn't working, you have to change it, and I suspect Mark Hughes has at the very most a few more games to prove he can get things working again.
I think that's true. And that's, if I'm honest, a big part of the reason I'm not saying out now is because I am scared of getting some... My biggest fear is we turn into one of these clubs that panics and gets a manager from like some random foreign league that had a good little spell and he comes into the Premier League. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's exactly what Marco Silva did. So.
There's the opposite. Don't get me wrong.
There's the opposite of that. There's people who've not gone that way, but
there is. Like, what about bloody Swansea last year with what's he called, the American guy, Bob Bradley.
Yeah, Bob Bradley.
I don't want
that was an awful appointment.
I don't want that.
He'd only
sort
managed
of
in like
panic
Dubai
sort of thing.
and other places, whereas Marco Silva's done well in Portugal. That went out to Greece, won the league, and went on a crazy run of home games unbeaten across multiple leagues, and then into the Premier League with Hull almost last season.
Yeah,
on that great almost revival run. So I think there's a bit of a difference between your Bradleys and your Silvers.
Yeah, no, I agree. I struggle to see Hughes appointing a foreign unknown manager. Do you? It's not really his philosophy.
Hughes, do you mean Coates?
Say again?
Did you mean Coates?
Coates, sorry. No, Hughes is
Hughes is at a point in his successor.
Yeah. I struggle to see it, but...
I do, which is a worrying thing.
So if that's the case, let's just say Hughes will... Coates will go British manager, British or Irish. Who could you see as candidates?
Dyche, Allardyce, Howe.
Yeah.
what's the Gary Rowett?
Yeah,
and then we're struggling.
We are. I think Dice is great.
I wouldn't want any of these, but I know they're putting them hats in the ring all over the shop at the minute. You've got your gigs. The rest of them.
I like Sean Dice, but I think he thinks he's probably above mid-table now, and I kind of agree. I think he's Everton.
I've backed him next. I've backed him next manager to go because I think he'll be snapped up by Leicester or Everton.
I think he'll go Everton, and I think he deserves that opportunity as well. That literally, for that list you just reeled off,
there's not much.
Sam Allardyce is it. Do you rate Allardyce?
I rate Allardyce.
I think he'd be perfect for Stoke. He'll offer us that Pulis still, but he won't be too constrained to the Pulis model of, long ball and the rest of it. I think he offers just enough flair to kind of keep things interesting.
And you've got to remember, he was England manager.
He was. You don't get that by being shit.
Then he kept Palace up.
Yeah.
At worst, he'd keep us up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we're above that. But yeah, foreign managers, I get the impression you'll know more than me. Who's out there that's a candidate?
Roger Schmidt is free.
I know nothing, by the way, about any.
I think he was ex-Leverkusen. He was a good manager. Thomas Tuchel at an absolute. That'd be like when we signed Shaqiri. There's no chance of that. Well, you think there's no chance of that. God knows. Apparently, he's been talked for the Everton job potentially now, and he was managing Dortmund in the Champions League. So that is like top draw choice. Like when I said Sam Powley to Robbie Savage on the radio, and he went Sam Powley. Yeah. That was. He didn't give me a chance to finish. That was like the upper echelons of choices. Obviously, we've missed out on Silva now. Atalanta's manager.
A few people, Graham Potter. He used to be at Stoke years ago. He wasn't that great as a player, but he's taken a Swedish fourth division.
Oh yeah,
all the way up.
Yeah,
to the Swedish Premiership or whatever.
They beat Athletic Bilbao.
Yeah, phenomenal. But
and I think the guy who scored the winner against Bilbao was last season playing in the 9th tier of English football.
Yeah. It gets proper random.
He's in the Europa League. I think Östersund's in the Swedish league is probably a little under our bracket. But going back to the British manager's point, because I have just thought of one, and if he wants to take another shot in the Premier League, I would snap his fucking hand off. It's Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah.
I'd snap his hand off.
I mean, I actually agree. I think he obviously did well at Swansea. Despite it going tits up at Liverpool, no one's done as well since.
Well, he almost won the league with Liverpool.
He did. And even though Celtic win the league all the time, he's not just won the league, he's done something very unique there. Phenomenal, really. I think that's a reasonable shout.
And as it stands, it looks like they might even go through in the Champions League as well.
Maybe. But I think Brendan Rodgers he'll set his sights definitely above the mid-table Stoke.
Oh God, there was a notification on my phone then from Stoke City. Every time I get one, I shit myself. I think it might have happened. Don't worry, it's just Tom Edwards dressed up with a kid in a Halloween costume.
Oh, that's good.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. So there we go. I'd like to hear the listeners' candidates. If we miss someone that's glaringly obvious, the decent person to come in, I can't think of any more. That's why I am proud.
You've obviously the people who will shout up the Mancini, Pellegrini. You've got the guys out in China, Andre Villas-Boas. If any of them fancy a shot back in the Premier League,
Villas-Boas, nah, he didn't do much.
I used to love Villas-Boas.
He did nothing over here though.
Yeah, he made Gareth Bale the player he is today.
Did he?
I read that. But that is just a list of choices. We probably should have gone through Ben's article on the website because he gave a list for all the different options. But there is options.
Yeah.
That's if he were to go. At the minute, he's still the manager of our club.
And I think we need to back him during the games and the squad. Because what else are we going to do?
Yeah, you've got him. Well, we're there this weekend, me and you.
We are, yeah. Go for a nice pint before, won't we?
We might have to be many pints after watching stuff.
It's a shame, because it was. I was going to say it was looking so sweet 18 months ago.
Yeah. Right. Let's go into the people's questions.
Every one of these is going to be. Do you want Hughes in?
Well, yeah, I'll avoid them because I've answered that. Charlie Baster said, "Would Lee Grant be a better option at right back than Glenn Johnson?"
Because of a bullet. Funny question, but no.
TD Ward says, interesting stat I found. We haven't sacked a manager mid-season since Megson in 1999, and even that was due to a club.
That was a stitch-up. He was doing a great job.
And then the last manager sacked mid-season due to performances was Chris Kamara at 1998.
That was definitely justified. He was
just a bit. He was awful.
Shit.
I can't say too much about him. I'll wait with him.
But surely he'll admit he was poor.
Yeah, he'll probably admit that.
Yeah.
Question 1 from Stokey23 Marcus: favourite savoury pie? Steak.
Steak and kidney.
Yep, steak and kidney. And favourite sweet pie? I don't do desserts, so I'm out of that.
My mum's apple pie.
mum's apple pie.
Good that. Bit of custard as well, yeah.
Obviously, this week as well, there's been a sacking. Ronald Koeman has gone from Everton, and
Is
Ben
he a
Hannon.
candidate,
And Ben
actually?
Hannon asks,
Yeah.
"Is he a candidate?"
I think so. I think it's a difficult one because you understand with the money they've spent, they should be aiming better. But I think, bar this season, literally this 8 games, his record in English football is brilliant. It's just for whatever reason on tits up this season. I'd be tempted enough. Yeah.
The only thing that worries me, about that is, he's had some money to spend at Everton. It's gone absolutely tits up. He's brought Wayne Rooney back into the fold, who probably shouldn't have it. The twilight of his career.
He's playing all right.
He's doing all right, but he's really hard to accommodate in that team.
Yeah.
And he obviously did well at Southampton, but at the end of the day, he inherited a Mauricio Pochettino side.
Yeah.
And Mauricio Pochettino creates some great sides. So I'm a bit unsure on Koeman.
Yeah, mate.
If he comes back, he's inheriting this side.
I know.
He's got to build.
I don't see. You know what? When I look at Ronald Koeman, I see like a similar persona to Mark Hughes. He's quite casual, isn't he? We need someone to kick up the arse, the squad.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can do that necessarily.
Northwoodian says, why is it after virtually 4 years Hughes doesn't know his best formation, starting 11 or tactics, hashtag
so
Hughes out? That's from Northwoodian.
It's so frustrating. I'm sick to death of not knowing our... I do the first 11, don't I, for the Bear Pit every Friday, whatever. And I'm half trying to predict what Hughes will do, half go with what I do. And it's just so... I'm sick of not knowing our first 11. I don't have a clue. I do not have a clue what it is. And that's nuts after 4 years. We're not...
Oh yeah, 4 years. 4 years still relying on 36-year-old Peter Crouch up top. Still with Glenn Johnson, who he inherited, I think.
No, he bought Johnson. Yeah.
But these players haven't been changed for years, and we should have a really strong side.
We should have.
We should know our best side.
We did have a decent side.
We did at one point.
It just didn't work.
Did at one point. Sam still 1, 2, 3. How much on a scale between 1 to 10 do you want Hughes gone? 10 for me.
Well, I mean, I'm just clinging on to now, I suppose. So
5.
I'm not on the scale.
Well, you're not on. Yeah, you're not
on. I'm close to being on
4
the scale.
4 games. We'll say 4.
Yeah.
Jamie Elks makes an interesting point, and if Stoke will lose to Watford and Leicester and sack Hughes, they've got an international break to take time to get a manager.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Which is a very, very good point. Let me just switch across to Facebook, because obviously that was just Twitter. We're inundated with questions this week, Craig. Absolutely, it's almost like people are mad about something. I'm not sure what. It's weird. Let's have a look at these ones. Richard Hubbard says, I've consistently been in the Mark Hughes camp. However, would it not be fair all round for the fans over the next 4 winnable games to get behind the players and management? This, then, subject to results, this determines if he stays or goes. Surely he deserves this. Agree. We both agree with that, Richard Hubbard. We definitely agree that as long as the manager's there, you have to support him and support the team. Unless he's doing something really, really bad. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, but stealing, thieving.
Pooing on the change room floor.
Yeah, he's probably doing that.
Matt Bennett says, why hasn't anyone mentioned Michael Laudrup when it comes to replacements? I think I'd steer clear of Laudrup.
What's Laudrup done? I didn't know you meant that, Laudrup. Yeah. I don't know what he's been up to. Where's his last job?
I think he's out in Dubai or somewhere.
Is he?
After Swansea, that's where he went for.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think he did a very good job actually at Swansea. And then it just quickly unfolded from it. I don't know why. Obviously won the cup with him. That was him, wasn't it? Yeah, maybe.
Nah, I'll say no. Roy Harrison says, what part does Mark Cartwright, head of recruitment, have in all this? Does he do the scouting? Does he get them in? What does he do exactly? I've asked this question in many places, and yet, as of yet, I've not had an answer. I believe Mark Cartwright is our chief scout.
Yeah, I don't know if we've got the answers either, but I agree with the sentiment.
He's our chief scout.
Chief scout, we have bought some expensive dross, haven't we? And ultimately, who are you going to blame and look toward? The chief scout, really? I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, I'll give him an answer. He is our chief scout. He does suggest targets for us to sign and pick them out, go and research, etc. So there you go. That's what he does. So part of this blame can lie with him, and it will lie with most of Mark Hughes' team, because that's what it is. It's Mark Hughes' team. You've got your scout, you've got your assistant, all that.
I said last podcast, name successful foreign signing under the Hughes era.
Oh yeah, we did this last week.
Who did we get? Arnie. Was great, fine. Other than that, that was it, wasn't it?
And I said anyone from South America, nothing.
No
one. But although we did say if it was us out there, we'd probably be on the booze and not watching anyone. Ramos says, why are so many of our players getting injured so quick? Do you think it's the dietitian or the physio or whatever? Do they need changing?
I've said this before. I don't feel like it's been quite as bad this past 12 months, but there was a spell where the muscular injuries were just through the roof, weren't they? Especially every week there was someone out. It was so frustrating. Jeff Cameron's had a horrendous time over the last 18 months. I don't know, it's a point I've raised again. It's not like we can give a decent answer to that question now, but it is something that I've considered. It's really frustrating. You can't seem to keep a consistent lineup. It's driving the wall.
Cantock makes an interesting point as well. And when so visibly the players not looking motivated, etc., game by game, Cantock says, is it player power and do they want Hughes out?
Have you ever seen players who's come out in the media post Stoke and slagged off Hughes? I think Boo had a little dig. Wilson about a defensive setup. Bojan, did he?
Bojan might have had a tiny one. Not like it's so much a dig, just saying.
But my point I was going to make, I've always seen generally players speak very positively of Mark Hughes, both at the club and since he's left. Charlie Adam was a big fan. He obviously didn't like Pulis, but he liked Hughes. I get the impression they like Mark Hughes because he's quite a relaxed guy, and I don't think they fear playing for Stoke, if that makes sense. That's the impression I get. I feel that it's quite a lax atmosphere, which is good. That helps to a certain degree, but then I think there needs to be some sort of a bit of a fear factor around your manager, a little bit, and I don't see Hughes having that at all. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm guessing, speculating, but it just seemed very casual.
Yeah. And I know what you mean.
Emulates from the manager down, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've heard. I've no idea where I've read this or heard this, but I've heard that Hughes' training sessions are just not up there. I can't remember where I've read or heard that. I don't know who I can put it down to. But yeah, I have. I think. Lastly, Mick West says, why is Charlie Adam not getting a game? Because it's Charlie Adam.
I've always defended Charlie Adam.
I don't think Charlie Adam's what our midfield needs right now. If I'm being
I agree with that point. I'm not one to have a go at Charlie Adam because I do think he's done some good things at the club, but I don't think that's the answer at all to Stoke at the moment at all. Let's keep into the check a trade thing.
Check a trade. So lastly, we come on to Watford this weekend. We've mentioned it previously already, but really worried about this. A team banging form apart from the blip at the weekend, but you say a blip, they were on top of that game against Chelsea. Before that, beat Arsenal at home. They've had some great results. Richarlison up top looks like a great signing. Again, one from South America, doing it well in the Brazilian leagues.
We've beaten Watford twice, haven't we, away the past 2 seasons?
So yeah, we beat them last year. Mbula had a great game.
He did, yeah. He come back into the squad.
It was the Sunday 12 o'clock kickoff.
Charlie Adam with a fantastic deflected header, I think it was. And the season 4 we played really well. Hosselou and Walter scored.
Yeah, Hosselou's chip.
Yeah, great finish. I'm scared.
But they're definitely a different beast.
They definitely are. If we concede in the first 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, I don't think
we've got the guile,
and I'm worried about that. I really am worried about this game. I think this could be. I just hope I'm wrong. I don't see our defence shoring itself up in the next week.
No,
he's got to drop this wing back formation.
4-4-2.
4-4-2.
I think it should be 4-4-2.
It has to be, because if we leave them gaps at
persist,
we'll get absolutely spanked.
It's not going to be great.
No.
Do you start Juve again up top?
Only with 2 up front, I do.
Yeah.
And yes.
And who do you play as his partner? Crouch?
Yeah.
Berahino?
No, it's Crouch.
Chupo? Hesse?
No, it's Crouch. All day it's Crouch. I think Chupo was quite poor, actually, on Saturday. I thought that was one of his worst performances.
And we hope that Shaqiri's back in Chupo's place, maybe?
Yeah.
Shaqiri on the right, Hesse on the left?
Yeah. Okay. Exactly, yeah. That's what I do. I mean, this is the first 11 now, yeah. That's what I do.
You're still going to make that video, Craig.
Yeah, I will. I'll do it. Should get out there now. 4-4-2, it's got to be. I think a point would be a fantastic result, and I'd take that right now. But I don't think
I'd snap your hand off for a point.
I don't think it's going to be.
I'll be completely honest.
Maybe I'll be more positive come Saturday, but I don't know.
Maybe with a few pints in us.
Yeah.
Be alright. One thing that does piss me off about Watford is that fucking B, Hornet, whatever it is. He pisses me off with his draw and all sorts.
Why is that?
I don't know. I really don't like him. He's just an antagonising mascot. If Pottermus was still right-hooking people's heads off like that Nuneaton mascot.
Yeah.
I want him to do it to him.
So, right, okay. Well, no, yeah, hopefully we can show that. It's a Hornet, isn't it?
I think so.
We can show the Hornet.
Why are they Hornets, but they've got a moose on the badge?
Good point. One of footballing's mysteries, that is, Al. No one's ever got to the bottom of that one.
It's a strange
No
one.
one's ever got to
Maybe
the bottom
Elton
of that.
John can tell me.
Yeah,
next time I see
Well,
him.
Google that. That's a good point. I think that's what I'm going to take from this podcast, is why have they got a Hornet for a mascot but a moose on their badge?
Do you want to hear something else that blew my mind earlier?
Definitely, yeah.
But it's nothing football related.
Go on.
It might blow a lot of people. Let me know in the comments afterwards if this blew your mind. Chav stands for council housed and violent.
I think that rings a bell, that. But it's nice to recall that fact.
Council housed and violent.
I think we should end every podcast on non-football related fact.
Yeah.
Just to keep things light.
And another one is if I don't know where this podcast is going now. If you're 20 and your dad is 40,
yeah,
he's 3 times your age. Sorry, if you're 20 and your dad's 60, he's 3 times your age.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
20 years pass. You're now 40. Your dad's 80. You're now only half his age. Mind blown. Mind
I
blown.
haven't got any response to that. I was hoping to go, no, it's not, but I don't know. Yeah, give me a week to figure that one out.
Okay.
I can't do it now.
It's not a teaser, it's just fact.
I suppose it is fact, but it's not though, is it?
It is.
I know, but it's...
You were 3 times his age. Now
well,
you're
no,
half.
I suppose. What
a way to end this podcast. And by the way, Craig, I'm sure you probably checked, but last week you were asking people to say where they listened from, and we had some great responses on the old YouTube.
I remember, where are
it
they?
was like New Zealand,
Lovely.
Australia, I think there's one in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, plenty of potters all over the shop.
And what we do now, the complete opposite of that. Who's the closest to the Bet365 stadium listen to this podcast?
Who's the closest?
We're going to go in now. Who's the closest?
Someone must be renting a room in the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, listen to this podcast, yeah. Let us know that. Who's local to Bet365
Who's the
stadium?
closest to the Bet365 stadium?
Then we'll do another one next week. I don't know what that'll be. Who's just in the middle?
God knows. Right, that has been a weird ending, but that has been the Bear Pit Pod. Do go leave us a review on iTunes, whether you like it on SoundCloud, Acast, YouTube, iTunes, wherever. Like it, subscribe, go tell someone else, subscribe, and we will see you, hopefully, after a Stoke City win so we can be more positive.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed next weekend. And me and Craig are obviously at the game, which is a rare occurrence. So come and speak to us.
Rare occurrence that we're going together, not that we don't go.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think we don't go.
That's what I mean.
Got a season ticket,
going together.
Yeah.
We're easier to find. And we will have the mic. If you want to give us a little blast of how you're feeling, you can. That has been the Bear Pit Pod. We will see you next week.